Hey guys, welcome to Royal Tiger Imports. I'm Uli and this is Shaw. And this is a continuation of our little mini-series, how the actual gun sounds, how you strip it, a little bit of history, and so on and so forth. And this should be a good guide if you're not familiar with the gun, how to field strip it for cleaning. And it's just good to have. Anyways, Shaw, what do we have here?
Sure. Well, we have a M1 Garand in front of us. This particular one was restored by James River Armory and is a quite a low serial number. I'll show you all up close later, but this is a 4-digit serial number, so this is very early on. The M1 Garand was, as many of you know, adopted by the U.S. military. It was adopted in 1936. Development of this stretched back a little bit earlier into the late 1920s, and test trials around the turn of the decade. They originally developed this in a few different calibers, but they ended up settling in 30-06 explicitly due to the fact they had a bunch of 30-06 laying around, so they wanted to use it. And the last thing about this is that before we go into a full detailed strip of it, is that it's pretty special that the U.S. was the only country at that time to have pretty much standardized issue semi-automatic battle rifle. The Marine Corps did stick around with 1903s for a little while leading into the war, but generally speaking, in the Army at least, it was pretty standardized. So it's a very special rifle indeed.
Oh, didn't Patton make a comment about this gun? That's the greatest battle rifle on Earth or something like that?
Yes, the greatest battle implement ever devised, if I'm quoting him correctly. No doubt. I mean, I think for a soldier-level item, it made quite the difference. This is a pretty incredible piece.
Yeah, awesome. Well, the Germans and the British, they had all the bolt actions, and the US already had the semi-auto, so it's pretty impressive. Excellent. So also we have a bunch of accessories here. If you're interested in, we offer the leather sling, the canvas sling, the cheek piece, actually belt holster, and the canvas carrying case for the Garand. So if you're interested in, check it out on our website. And Shaw, why don't we do this? I turn the camera around and you show the folks how that thing sounds and how to take it apart.
Let's go ahead and do it.
Awesome. Stay tuned, guys. I'll be right back.
All right, folks, let's get into disassembling this M1 Garand. This particular one, as I mentioned earlier, is a early 4 digits of 5,000 serial number, pretty special. Of course, the very first thing you want to do is make sure it's unloaded. And while we're here, let's go ahead and just see how the Garand sounds. You can see it's got a very distinct sound to it, especially when it locks back. And one other thing you want to be very careful of course, everybody knows this, that you don't want to get Garand thumb. You can get away, despite what people have said earlier, you can get away with actually pushing the follower down when the chamber is empty and the whole assembly is empty. The main thing that's retaining it back is the secondary locking, where you press this down and then I'm bringing my hand back, and if you hear just there's a slight click, that allows the action to go forward. So let's go ahead and disassemble this. The very first thing you want to do after checking that it's unloaded is to pull the trigger guard back. This is a early milled trigger guard. There's also the stamped variations. The same process is applied for both. I'm pulling it back. It's unhooking off the rear of the trigger housing, and this whole assembly comes straight out. These locking lugs here, for lack of a better term, are lining down into these recesses here when we go to reassemble it. The whole stock pivots off of the front here, and there is your stock assembly. You can of course wipe it out if there's any dirt or debris in there. And moving on to the action itself, you've got your main op rod assembly, your recoil spring with the rod, and then all of your mechanical components here which actuate the follower and the basically all of the catches, etc. This operates off of the recoil spring, so we'll go ahead and pull the recoil spring and rod back. You can see that the spring is housed inside the op rod. This comes back here. We'll set that to the side for now. Turning it over, we'll take a look at the top. You can see the op rod has a slot cut into it where the bolt locks into. And if we come back to right about here, you can notice that there is it's very hard to see, but there's a very slight cut in the top of the rail. When we get this back, we pull this op rod just out ever so slightly over to the side, just like that. And then you're able to bring your bolt out. And there's your whole bolt assembly. You can go ahead and clean it off. Generally speaking, it's not necessary for a field strip to take the bolt completely apart. Just make sure that your firing pin is not damaged, that the tail is still intact. Clean it out. Make sure the extractor pivots. Make sure the ejector goes in and out, etc. Otherwise, this is about as far as you need to go for a general field strip and cleaning. Of course, you can go ahead and clean out the op rod, both the inside and outside. In addition to this, you could go ahead and remove the gas cylinder. I won't do it this very moment, but the easiest way to do it is just take either a flathead screwdriver if you have an early type gas cylinder like this, or a Phillips head screwdriver for the later type gas cylinder plug. You unscrew that, you unscrew this locking ring, and then the whole cylinder assembly comes off. You can clean it, but generally speaking, as long as you're running good, clean ammo through the gun, you can get away with not cleaning this for a little while. So let's go ahead and reassemble this. You want to first align the tail of that firing pin with a little cutout that's right here in the receiver. As you're bringing it back in, I'll have to fidget with it a little bit. Oh, there we go. Perfect. So I made it a little more difficult than it had to be, but you slide that back in, and then you have your cutout in the op rod right up here. You want to bring your op rod back over, and then it goes over the bolt lug on the right, and then you slide it back, and notice how it just jumps right into the slot cut on the side of the receiver. Now your whole bolt assembly is aligned. We will then reverse what we did earlier. We throw in the spring. And what I'm trying to do at this next point is line up the hooks of this op rod spring onto the peg that is coming off of this magazine follower. So I will be bringing this back and hooking it over it just like that. From here, this is all done, so we will go ahead and pivot our stock back on. And trigger guard, again, you've got your aligning pegs dropping into here. We will go ahead and drop that in, and then this has a slight bit of tension, and we will go ahead and clip that over. Sometimes they are fairly tight to get on. It is okay to lightly rubber mallet these, as long as it's not pressing on the stock too hard. And that's it. There's your full, at least a field stripping of the M1 Garand. And while we're here, we've also got some of the accessories to cover. We've got the Garand cheek piece that is used on the M1Cs and Ds. You've got your later style canvas sling. You've got your earlier style 1907 sling. This is also the same one that they use on the 03 Springfields. Of course, we've got some clips. We offer free clips with each of the rifles. Just depends on how many we offer for each one. We've also got the 1936 pistol belts. These are pretty standard reproductions and very well done. All the hardware is nicely colored with proper markings as well. And finally, we've got our Garand canvas cover. So we've got the rifles and all the accessories you'll ever need. Thank you very much for watching. God bless America.